Hey, good evening. Well, that was a bit shorter than usual. I'm wondering how you guys like that. But we're trying something a little different. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, Liam and Sean. It's good to see you, Wrecker. And yep, I'm hitting it right now there, Liam. I'm gonna do it. Hey, Charlie. How you doing? Yeah, it's good to see you. Hey, Shill. Thanks for coming by. Okay, banner is on. Hopefully, my sound is okay. Besides my croaky, froggy voice. Or yeah. Hello, Carrie Ann. Lurking and listening, but wishing everyone a good day first. Thank you, Carrie Ann. It's nice to have you here. Today, we're going to go over all of these roast cases. And when I say all of them, well, I'm not going to go into great detail about some of them, but I'm going to let you know about the spider web that's out here of all of these different lawsuits that are going on. Um, There are both criminal and civil lawsuits in regards to the Rust movie, and in particular to one incident that happened on the set of Rust back in 2021. On October 21st of 2021, uh, Haylna Hutchins lost her life after a weapon was pointed at her by Alec Baldwin during a movie scene with what he thought was a prop gun, and when he was practicing how to do his shot, and Halyna is actually the cinematographer. She is directing him. The gun goes off. It's a live round. It was by one person's head, the director, okay, who gets injured, and it shoots into Halyna, who lost her life. She was airlifted out, lost her life at the hospital. Joel Souza, who was the director, also was injured and was ambulanced off set. Um, both survived. Everybody is suing everyone in regards to this case. There are two settled lawsuits already. One criminal, sort of, and the other one civil. There was massive amount of civil suits, but there are two criminal cases that are going on. One of them we did a hearing for today, and that would be for the armorer. That would be for Hannah Gutierrez Reed. She was charged with manslaughter and careless, disregard of weaponry on the set, and many other. Also, she's being charged with tampering of evidence for something else. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra, good to see you. We heard some of in her hearing today what's going on in regards to trying to hold back evidence and things like that. 404 evidence that may go to reputation, etc. But the biggest thing was that there was a dump of confidential emails between attorney and client, the defendant Hannah and her attorneys. Um, and it was dispersed 6 months ago to a witness in the case, Mr. Kinney, who is also being sued by Hannah Gutierrez Reed because he was the one who supplies all the weaponry. She ordered the gun and the ammunition from him. Okay. Now, the armorer is responsible for all of this weaponry and making sure the props and everything are there, and that safety protocols are put into place. She's responsible for the training and etc. Now, in regards to the charges with the armorer has responsibility for all of the weaponry that's on the set. Okay, but she was not the last one to check the gun. The one who said that the gun was cold, meaning it was clean, was David Hall, and he was the assistant director and also in charge of safety protocols on the set. So he was the one who brought the weapon onto the set and gave it to Alec Baldwin. He was the last one to check the cartridges in the gun. Here's the problem. Alec Baldwin says he never pulled the trigger. There has been forensic testing that's been done. Alec Baldwin had his original set of charges dropped with prejudice. There was problems. Prosecution was doing two different cases. There was Special prosecutor was pulled from the case. New special prosecutors were put into place. Those new special prosecutors, one we met today, Kathleen Morrissey, they decided to drop the charges currently against Alec Baldwin because he said he didn't pull the trigger. They didn't have the testing yet on the gun to show whether it had malfunctioned. So until that testing came through, chances are the gun could have malfunctioned. If he says he didn't pull the trigger and it just went off, well, it wasn't an act that he could prevent. So they waited. And when the testing came through and the gun could not have fired on its own, pretty much it was impossible. That testing came through and they decided that Alec Baldwin was not exactly being truthful in his testimony, and they recharged him for manslaughter on, the unintentional loss of life through something that he did, and also the mishandling of a weapon, an aggravated charge that goes on to it because of the weapon that was used, which was a gun. Okay. Now, the assistant director, David Halls, the one who called the gun cold, meaning that it was checked and it was fine, he already pled guilty to mishandling of a firearm, inappropriate safety precautions. He just pled guilty. He knew that he was the last one to check it, and that he didn't check it. He didn't check each chamber. Now he did open it and look, but he didn't look at each bullet. Apparently, there was only one live round, and the rest were as they should have been, either dummies or what they call, blanks. However, they weren't real. So they actually he just didn't check each single one. So he does accept his responsibility for not doing as thorough job as he should have. Well, here's the reason that more than he is being charged with anything. There's not supposed to be any live ammunition on this set at all. It is against protocol. It is against all the standards. It is against armories, a certified armory reputations. Well, there's not supposed to be live ammunition anywhere on this set. But there was. And it was mixed in with other bullets that got loaded into this gun. And that's not the worst part. You know why so many people are getting charged is that there were 2 other incidences of live ammunition being fired on set within the last week before, the week before. Safety precautions were being tossed to the wind all over this set. 5 crewmen before this scene happened and before the untimely death of Haylna Hutchins, 5 crewmen walked off in protest of unsafe condition and too many accidents happening. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So there's a lot of people suing a lot of people, but as far as criminal charges, the state of New Mexico is suing Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and her trial is actually going to start at the end of February. She has her next hearing date on February 14th, as we heard in the judge proclaim, or Judge Sumner said today. They would go over then on the 14th whether or not the charges will be, whether she's going to go with the dismissal request by the defense because of the 6 months ago what the prosecution has done as far as release of confidential information. They're also going to weigh in on some of the other evidence that they don't want in. But today we heard that her past in regards to her condition in statement that she gave in regards to a motorcycle accident that resulted in the death of her boyfriend or fiance at the time, who was inebriated. Um, he was under the influence of something, intoxicated, they said. And they says that she did give him the keys, but that during the investigation she had not given truthful statements to law enforcement. She did not, her and her defense attorneys put a motion forward. They didn't want that mentioned at all. The judge said it could be mentioned if it's pertinent to make sure that if she decides to take the stand, if Hannah Gutierrez takes the stand, that it could be used to prove that her testimony is truthful or to impeach her should she choose to lie about if a question comes up. Have you ever lied to law enforcement, like in an investigation? Hmm. So that's what it would be used for, and they have to go by whether they're going to use it to impeach her. They have to notify the judge first. They're not allowed to just come right out with it. Prosecution, as we heard Miss Morrissey say, that she would cooperate with the judge and with defense in that that it's just not fair to kick all of the evidence because it is purposeful to keep them truthful. Right? Hey, Jen, how are you? Hey, Jacob. I don't see your question though, Jacob. I see that you were going to ask one. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, I think a lot of the lawsuits that are going on are in regards to everybody just saying they have no responsibility and pointing fingers at everyone else. Now, David Halls, who I mentioned, he got a suspended Satan of 6 months probation. He paid like a $5,000 fine. He has 24 hours of community service. He has to take a gun safety um, course. Okay. Um, but he pled guilty and he made a deal with the prosecution, and he will be testifying in all of the he has agreed to testify in all of the cases, criminal and civil, as necessary to what happened on the set that day. Okay. um I don't know if you can see it here, but this is actually the inside of the church um from the scene of when it happened. And like I said, it was October 21st of 2021. Um, the first thing that I wanted to show you was, of course, um, this is Haylna Hutchins. She was a cinematographer. She was accredited and very artsy and young. She has a husband and a small boy of about 7, I believe, or maybe younger. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it either, Mrs. Cassandra. Thank you. Okay. Um, Hannah lost her life young. The first civil suit that was filed and settled, was by Mitchell Hutchins, who is her husband, for their son, Aiden, uh, in lieu together. And that was settled. It was against Alec Baldwin, who is a producer on Rust, not just an actor, taking his instruction from the director and the cinematographer. No, he is also a producer of this movie. So he does bear a little more responsibility than just an actor on set, as he's been kind of saying in his statements that he feels no guilt because he had no responsibility whatsoever in any of these. This is all up to other people to make sure of. He was just doing as he was told. Um, well, hell no. Hale knows of husband did file suit against all of the producers, the company, the production company, and the ranch itself, everyone involved there in for the son in regards for wrongful death in unsafe practices. And that got settled, and the court actually agreed to the settlement. What happened was Mitchell Hutchins was then made a executive producer of Rust, so he would share in any profits that would go through, and decisions in regards to marketing and etc. And also a settlement of large amounts of money, not really given in details the amounts of money, but that the son would definitely receive payouts at the age of 18 and 22. The money would be put in trust to hold for him until that date. And it was agreed upon that all the producers and all of in the insurance company, all of that was settled out of court. The court had to approve the settlement to close the case, and it was closed, and approved. So that is the second one that has been settled. All right. The first one was David Hall, and that was like his criminal charges of neglect and misuse of a mishandling of a firearm. Okay. Now, those are the only two that are settled. There are so many other civil cases, it's not even funny. Both Hannah Gutierrez and Alec Baldwin are suing everybody else involved through the production. They're suing the producers, they're suing the man who brought the weapons and the ammunition, they're suing Kenny, they're suing the assistant who was in responsible for disposing of some of the weapons. Okay, Alec is cross suing Hannah, and Hannah's cross suing Alec, and everyone else. Um, they're all suing each other. The medic that actually was called off of their lunch to come treat Haylna and Joel after they were shot is actually suing the production company, the ranch, everybody involved, and Alec Baldwin, all of the producers, because she's got trauma and can't work now based on how upsetting this was. Although that case itself is kind of falling apart because she wasn't there for the actual shooting. Her life wasn't put at risk. She's a medic. She's seen people have injuries and all before. That lawsuit is one on its own. There's another one where the dolly worker and an assistant and someone else who were standing near Alec Baldwin are suing Alec Baldwin and the producers over not being able to work, PTSD, the traumatic event itself, having a bullet whiz by their head. Um, assistant over there to Joel Sosa, I believe they're also suing because, the bullet went right by them and then they were actually there holding Helena when she was shot, you know, until the medics came. That's another lawsuit that's going on. I mean, there's just multiple lawsuits back and forth with everybody going on. Those are all civil suits. Like I said, um, it just gets very, very convoluted. I know, Liam, it's hard to imagine someone not feeling guilty. But Alex has said, and I think that's part of the anger that people talking about these cases, people get very angry and very upset. There's people cross suing all over, and I think it's the lack of accountability. Everybody's just like, things were going wrong on the set, and nobody wants to take any responsibility for anything. And it's just finger pointing back and forth and back and forth. I think the near misses and knowing that someone actually died is very traumatic for a lot of people that were on the set, especially when they know that there's not supposed to be any live ammunition. You're like, how could this happen? It just seems like a really big oops to load a live round into a firearm, especially when they're not supposed to be on the set whatsoever. Okay. So did they scratch the movie? Well, they did for a while, but in May of 2023 they wrapped up production and it has not been released yet, but it is ready to come out. In order for the young child to actually get those payments and all, I guess they're hoping that the movie does make some money. And they did make the widow, Mitchell Hutchins, a producer on the movie. So it did go forward with that part of the family. Um, Haylna Hutchins has family in Ukraine, a mother, a father, and a brother that she was sending money to monthly and was working on getting them safe transportation to America immigration status. They are also suing the producers and Alec Baldwin because that's no longer possible since she's no longer here. That kind of messed everything up for them, and it's caused them some financial stress too. That civil lawsuit is also pending. Hello, Tsunami. The near misses create what if scenarios in people's heads. Exactly. Everybody who was there, it was something that they didn't think was possible. Aren't producers supposed to oversee? Yes. Who would be responsible for the people that are hired in regards to all the safety protocols to make sure that things are going to be done their way? who are the last line about what gets done on a movie, well, what can be afforded or not afforded, and where the money gets spent. That's the producers. You're absolutely right. And yet they're all claiming that they don't have any responsibility because they hired other people to do this stuff. Well, you know what? They're still responsible for their hirees in making sure that they do their job. Point in reference. Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Now, she does come from a family. Her father is Theo Reed, who's very well-known armorer on many sets with a lot of a lot of background. You know, um, for example, let me just think. Some of the movies that he did were The Django Unchained, 310 to Yuma, Tombstone, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. These are all Theo Reed uh, armorer movies. He was the weapon specialist on those movies and credits. Now an armorer can be certified, but it's not required to be certified to work in Hollywood. Okay. Hannah Gutierrez Reed is only 24. Okay. She didn't have a lot of experience. She had about 2 months, she said, worth of experience actually on the job. Everything else that she learned from her father. Okay. Now, you know, the defense attorneys are going to say, well, everybody starts somewhere. That's what they're saying. She didn't, that didn't mean she wasn't trained or capable of doing her job. Just said she was trying to follow orders while she was doing her job. Ross presented her the opportunity to get her union certification, which she did not have. And she needed union certification to become a certified professional armorer. Okay. She was just trying to do her job. She was being made to do certain things that she's fighting against. And this is what she says against the 30-year veteran like Mr. Halls, who pled guilty, telling her, you're going to do this. So that's what she did, even though she was above him. Okay, he's the safety coordinator, she's the armorer. Okay, she's responsible to making sure that everybody gets training in regards to the gun. Okay. One of the problems that she says in regards to this suit is that she had concerns over reckless safety culture, but she didn't feel comfortable demanding protocols be met because she had such junior status. Okay. An investigator in the case actually wrote in a statement of probable cause that she was unqualified because she had no certification or certifiable training or a union card for this practice. And the production violated industry practices by also assigning her assistant prop master duties, which meant she could not focus primarily on her armorer duties. In other words, she was wearing two hats. Now, an armorer's responsibility is for the transport, storage, and safe use of all weaponry and firearms on film sets. Okay. It is illegal to use real firearms and sometimes Title I firearms on set unless a licensed armorer is present. So not just that you have an armorer, but you have to have a licensed armorer. Okay. So there's all kinds of problems here. All right. Now, Mr. Hall did actually plead guilty to his part. He said that he did not check that every round was in the gun to confirm that it was a dummy round and not a live round. He then handed that gun to Mr. Baldwin, and Mr. Baldwin began to practice his cross draw. And during that action of practicing the cross draw, the gun went off. And obviously, Mrs. Hutchins was struck by the bullet and was killed. That's the factual basis for Mr. Hall's taking the no contest plea to the unsafe handling of a deadly weapon. In separate regulatory proceedings under workplace safety, authorities have asserted that Hall's he shared responsibility for identifying and correcting any hazardous conditions related to firearm safety in the movie's production. So did all of the producers, so did the armorer, okay, so did the director, like everybody that had anything to do with that gun. But it seems, everybody wants to say that they are not responsible. Now, there were training sessions set up. There was a training session set up for at least an hour or more in length, was scheduled for everybody was going for Alex Baldwin, in everybody involved. Armorer Hannah Gutierrez had said that she scheduled it, but that Alec only actually participated for about 30 minutes of it because he was talking on his cell phone to his family during the training. This is part of her affidavit. Since she's been charged with involuntary manslaughter, prosecutors are stating that she did not insist on Baldwin's safety training, nor did she have him follow up for the rest of the time or make sure that he met the requirements. She did not check each round loaded into the firearms either, and did not follow appropriate safety protocols in storing ammunition. Otherwise, had she, there's no way a live round could have got mixed in with the dummy ammunition. Her reckless responsibility, her being so reckless in her responsibilities, set the lack of safety with the firearm, and she failed to correct Baldwin or anyone else from committing the dangerous and reckless safety violations by pointing the weapon towards people and having his finger on the trigger, which is the only way the gun could have fired through the testing that was done. He's not supposed to have his finger on the trigger at all, but he did. Photos and videos clearly show that Baldwin, multiple times with his finger inside of the trigger and on the trigger while manipulating the hammer and while drawing, pointing, and holstering the revolver. They have evidence of all of this, all in violation of the protocols. Repeated FBI testing of the weapon determined it could not have fired without the trigger being pressed. However, in interviews with CNN and ABC, Alec Baldwin has repeatedly claimed he did not pull the trigger in his talks to law enforcement and also in all his PR talks afterwards. This is one of the reasons I do believe that the charges were brought back on him. It just makes sense. I mean, if they're going to be saying that he absolutely, he's saying he absolutely didn't, but the testing and he's not actually being honest, then of course they're going to charge him again. Okay. I wanted to show you this is Mitchell Hutchins and Haylna and her son that the settlement was done for. Uh, this is a picture. This is a picture of Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and this is pretty much the around the time of the event. This is in 2021. This picture is from. This is our judge, Mary Marlowe Sommer. Some of you met her today during the hearing out of New Mexico. They do an open court and they filmed, they do the live presentation of the hearings. They will on February 14th also. Both of these trials are listed as high profile and will be televised through the court. Mary Marlowe Sommer has both cases so far, and I do believe they're both going to be all of the hearings. On February 1st, Alec Baldwin be arraigned on his two charges of manslaughter. The reason there's a second charge is because of the use of the firearm. Of course, this is Alec Baldwin. This is not exactly at the time, but close to the time, around 2021. I was trying to get a good picture, but a lot of them had him in costume for the movie from that time, and I didn't want to use one of those. Okay, so I'll go back on that. I do believe there was one more picture of the outside of the church that I wanted to show you guys. The scene was inside this church. So, this was the ranch that they had rented out and where it all happened. And even the people who actually run this facility that they rented out to do the movie, and were named in several of the civil lawsuits actually. Now Alec Baldwin is suing because he thinks he's taking the more rap than anybody else on this, because he was holding the gun and he's a producer, and so everybody else is, not being looked at as responsible, and he feels that he is not at all. He said that he knows he didn't do anything wrong, and he sleeps quite well knowing he has no responsibility here. Um, I think that's one of the most angering statements that is out there as to why people are just getting so upset about this. The fact that yes, it was an accident, okay, but a lot of protocol and a lot of things went wrong on this set, and so somebody needs to be held accountable. It looks like we're looking at something, and it's opening our eyes to how all the protective measures are not being done properly. They're not being paid attention to. People are actually scoffing at it like they know better, like they don't have to do what the protocols say. And then something like this happens. And everybody doesn't want to take responsibility, but they're all to blame in some way. It would just be better if they all just came forward. Um, it would go over much, much better. The fact that somebody who actually, there are pictures with their finger on the trigger, can actually go live on television and say they never had their finger on the trigger, as if those pictures don't exist, um, is just overwhelming. It's so disrespectful. It just really is. I don't know if I could sleep well if I had anything to do with it at all. Yeah. It is a gross statement, Sonomi, I agree. Yeah, Sean, he gave a statement, I believe. Um, are you talking about, do you mean Alec Baldwin? Yeah, he's been doing the press releases. Yeah, I don't think that Brandon Lee was killed by a live bullet. I do believe it was a misfired blank. The blank did not operate appropriately. Yeah, exactly, Tsunami. He literally pulled the trigger, and yet he is saying he has no responsibility. It's a bit frustrating. It definitely is. Okay, so basically I gave you the laydown of this. I also down below linked you, because these are high profile cases in New Mexico, they make the public files open. So there is the previous indictment against Alec Baldwin that was dropped, okay, and the filings there. Then there is the new one that they just filed, okay? And then there's also all of the records in regards to um Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Those are the criminal cases that are going on. What I didn't link is all of the civil cases, because I mean, as they come forward, we'll talk about a few of them, I think, but I don't really see much going on with any of them actually right now. And it is just a bunch of finger pointing back and forth. I think it's just important that we know that it's going on, that actually Alec Baldwin and Hannah are both suing everybody too civilly. Everybody's suing everybody, production companies, everybody involved with it, the unions, you name it. Everybody's just suing everybody on here. But David Halls is actually already got his sentencing, is dealing with that and taking his classes and that. There is the assistant Sarah Zachary is being sued. Seth Kenny is being sued. He was the one responsible for, he's an owner of Arm and Prop. He brings the actual guns and the ammunition. He would have been responsible for bringing the ammunition, and he is being accused by Hannah Gutierrez and others that he actually brought the live ammunition onto set. Now, there is a story going around about Seth Kenny knowing that there was a man by the last name of Swanson who made bullets like these dummy bullets, because the company that makes the dummy bullets doesn't make live ammunition. So the bullet that was used needed to be put together by somebody to be live ammunition, and it had a different color um plug, I guess is what you call it. You know, the little round part in the middle. I don't know exactly what you call that part. Well, it was a different color. All of the blanks were goldish and it was silverish. It was quite evident that it was live one, or that it was at least different if you didn't know that it was live. Well, the story is that Swanson was known to make these kind of bullets. Okay. And that Thel Reed, who is Hannah's father, actually was with Seth Kinney and Swanson and himself, and had used the can like these live bullets and was doing target practice somewhere else in regards to them. But how they actually these bullets ended up on set is another thing. Like no one's really sure about that. First of all, you know, there's all kinds of protocols that have been violated here. Just think about it. How did whoever is responsible for bringing the ammunition in, like you order it, right? And it comes in from a company. Who's checking it in, right? Would that be the armorer? Okay. Like, so whether Seth Kenny brought it in or not, the armorer should have checked what it was. They're responsible for putting it away, them or their assistant, but still there needs to be training there. So, how did this live bullets get in with the other ammunition? And then who loaded the gun? Who didn't check the gun? Okay. Now, David Halls already admitted that when he checked the gun, he didn't check every bullet, and that's on him. And he was the one who gave the gun to Alec and told him it was a cold gun. It had been checked. So no one was worried about it. He's actually taken his part about it. But what about everybody else? No one else is actually. Everybody else is just pointing fingers. Okay. On the witness list for Hannah, which I thought was interesting, she does have her father listed. She has several of the officers who showed up. Okay. She has Gabriel Pickles, Sarah Zachary. They're both assistants. Seth Kenny, who was the man who brought the props, who was responsible for getting the guns and the ammunition. She has David Halls on there. She has also several other people in regards to um, Robert Genoway, who is a part of the Environmental Department of Occupational Health and Safety Bureau, on what the rules and regulations are. She's got several of the GRIP, several other people that are also suing Alec Baldwin and people in charge that were there on the scene. She has Joel Souza, who was the other injured party, the director. Okay. She's got another person, Serge Sevene, who's from a law corporation who knows a lot about this kind of stuff. Her expert witnesses were interesting. She's got a Frank Koki, okay, from a law firm, who's an expert in firearms, firearm safety and handling, reloading of ammunition, and identification of ammunition. He's an expert. She also has a private investigator by the name of Scott Elliott. He's an expert in investigation, quality investigation, best investigation practices in homicide and manslaughter cases. And they will be going after the prosecution's handling of the case with him. We've got PJ Pessy, okay, from the Bowles Long Form, and he's also an expert witness on movie set safety, specifically claims of command and protocols on movie set, roles of various persons on movie sets, and the role of an armorer on movie sets, which is going to be very important. Okay. Then she has James Hanna, and Mr. Hanna is a qualified polygraph examiner who is going to testify to the test results of Miss Gutierrez Reed's polygraph examination. Now we know that those aren't admissible as evidence, but he's they're allowed to talk about it, I guess. All right. But it's quite the witness list. She's also listed that they will also be calling anyone that the state calls, and any rebuttal witnesses that are necessary. But it's quite the list of everybody who was there. But know who's not on the list? She's not calling Alec Baldwin. Okay? Nope, she's not calling Alec Baldwin. The structure of a blank would mean there's always a risk of a better copy. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Brandon Lee, that accident. Okay. Uh, Angier says, I'm a little behind, catching up on twos. I feel like making the widower and child beneficiary of the profits of the movie could be the producers playing on the emotions of the public to get. Angier, I thought it was a little sketch too. Like, I can't believe that that movie is like coming out. But I think whether the movie makes money or not, the boy gets the settlement amount that was agreed on, you know. But to make the father an executive producer, like, that was a little like, what is going on here? I don't know if it was to guarantee some money coming in, you know? I don't know. It's like profits are going to the survivors. Come watch the movie and make sure it makes a lot of money for the family, trying to recoup their losses from bad publicity. Yeah, it does leave a bad taste in the mouth. It really does, Ginger. I kind of agree. I don't know about if they want to do the right thing, then all of the insurance payment, close it down, for the wrongful death, and give all the money to the child. I mean, there's other ways to do the right thing, Liam, than to continue the movie. And I guess they feel like they had the blessing of the husband, you know. So it's hard to say what could be done. Like, what's the best thing? They are going to need money to settle with the family. That's for sure. And it's in the best interest of the son to have the settlement. He doesn't replace his mother, but he's due. So I kind of get that part of it. Yeah, it kind of does look good to the judge a little bit. You're right, Sonomi. Like, they're trying, you know, and that part's all been settled so far. So yeah, but this is doesn't really look good for Hina Gutierrez Reed Indoor Alec Baldwin, and it's very dicey about who's responsible. It really is. I just it's just really hard for me to digest that the armorer thinks that they're not responsible in any way, or that Alec Baldwin thinks that he's not responsible as a producer. How anybody who's making money or is in any kind of position of authority on that movie doesn't take some responsibility is beyond me. Oh, but okay, I've been trying to do this all week, and I think I got most of the information out there in regards to where the cases are right now. But let's see. Let me go through any other questions. Yeah, Mrs. Cassandra, I totally understand why people are pissed about people not taking accountability with this one. Yep. Okay, on that, guys, I'm gonna call it early so I could save my voice, and hopefully do my stuff for the weekend. As you can hear, it's just not right yet. So unless you have any other questions, I'm gonna leave that there. But if you do think of questions and you want to know more, please just comment on the back of the video. Like, share, comment. You make a comment there, I'll always answer. For those of you that are in the Discord, if you're a member or a Patreon, or you've worked with me as a creative collaborator, you're in the library, and there is a room for the Rust account, okay, which has a lot of articles in things like that were very good. There were two articles that I found very helpful for today that I'm going to put in the chat because they're not listed below. I I think this New York Times one maybe. But I did link all the case files to to New Mexico. Okay. And this last one I'm going to give you is the witness list. Oh my gosh, I think that's too long. It won't go through. Okay. Anyway, the witness list is like the fifth document on the Hannah case, but listed below, which is the third link to New Mexico's court system. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad, crazy. Like, I try to do true crime at 7. So, I just kept rescheduling this one. I was supposed to do it Tuesday, then I was going to do it Wednesday. My voice just was not uh keeping up with me. Yes, don't forget to like and share the video, everybody. And we'll be doing more on this as it goes. This is definitely a case that we are definitely, because of the legal twists and the lack of accountability on all sides. I want to see where legally this ends up shaking out, both in the criminal in the civil cases. It's fascinating, especially with this motion to dismiss over the prosecution's uh, mishandling of those correspondence between the attorney and the defendant. The child, I believe, was around 7. He looked like. I can double check for that, Andrew. But I do believe he was like around 7 years old. If you follow back, there's going to be a picture of him soon that I did put up. But on that, I'm going to say good night, everybody. I'm going to put on the much longer outro than the very short intro. And I will see you all. I'll see you all soon, hopefully. Have a good night.